Okay, so let's imagine you have no credit profile whatsoever. You're basically starting at zero. What are some of the first steps that you would take when it comes to making sure that you can build and establish a pretty solid credit profile in a short period of time? So in today's video, we're going to talk about some of the ways that you can start with a clean slate when it comes to your personal credit, the steps that you need to take in order to build a pretty powerful credit profile, as well as some of the dangers that you have to avoid along the way when it comes to building that significant profile. Now, it's not an easy route. I have to give you a warning that it does take a little bit of patience, but if you know how to do it the right way and you start from scratch, you'll follow this direction, you're going to get some amazing level of results and some good funding in the same time. So let's get you started. Now, when we start with our personal credit profile, the biggest thing that we have against us is all the negative items that are there. Now, when you start with a clean slate, let's assume you have no credit profile whatsoever. Even if you're in your 30s and 40s, or even if you're in your late 20s, it's not too late to start. See, a lot of people think their credit has to be established in a predetermined time frame, and then you have to start from all the way back in a couple of years. You need to have a decent history, and from that perspective, then you'll be able to build a pretty powerful connection with the creditors and a good report that will get you all the type of funding that you're looking for, or the right house, or the type of car that you want. And that's not really the case, okay? There are steps that you can take even if you don't have all that extensive credit history. See, a lot of people try to go through shortcuts in order to get access to that history, which is the authorized user trade lines. There's a problem there. See, back in the days, trade lines were amazing. It was very good. You can basically get access to those profiles and instantly get advantage and take advantage of the credit score boost that you would receive. But over time, creditors became smarter. The compliance departments, fraud regulation departments became smarter. And it's becoming more and more difficult in order for you to basically get access to those profiles like back in the days. So now you have to resort to ethical, white hat, and structured ideas that are both not only compliant but legal in order to receive the ideal credit score that you're looking for. And if you don't follow the right steps, if you don't follow all the ethical, legal, compliant protocols when it comes to building your credit, you're going to land yourself in a lot of trouble. So stick around and let's talk about some of the ways that you can build a personal profile that's ethical, good, compliant, but at the same time strong enough for creditors to consider giving you credit based on what you deserve. So being in this space when it comes to credit repair, I've noticed a lot of things, right? The biggest thing for me is that a lot of people were coming to me asking me for shortcuts when their personal credit profile. Now, I'm not a person who just likes to give shortcuts because I believe that there are ways that you can do it the proper way. And even though it wasn't like a good opportunity for me to sell my services and everything because I didn't have the shortcuts, I feel good giving them a sensible direction that they can follow. See, at the end of the day, it's all about giving the outcomes and results based on a long-term game. See, a lot of people don't have the patience, but the long-term game is going to be your absolute best friend. In the credit repair space, okay, there's a lot of people who are so desperate to take access to clients and get access to customers and to sell their services, they're not even thinking about what are some of the consequences to that individual in consideration of the harm that they might potentially do if they do it the wrong way. See, I'm not in that space. I want to make sure that whatever customers come to me, I first embed the long-term mentality in their heads, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of garbage out there. So when you start by cleaning up that garbage and you start with the right steps, you're going to get significant and better outcomes when it comes to your personal credit profile. So starting with a clean slate, that's the first step, and that's the biggest thing I think you can take, is to clean up the garbage that's in the head when it comes to all the gray area, unethical strategies, shortcuts that people are teaching you, and think about the long-term game. So that's the first step when it comes to personally building a profile that's strong with a clean slate. Okay, so we talked about keeping the garbage away from your head. Now let's talk about building the credit profile. Like anything else, if you have starter accounts, which are like the non-essential primary trade lines, examples of that are, you have My Jewelers Club, which is good. It's a good starting point. It's a jewelry online company. You start with $100 and you start paying some balances towards that by ordering some jewelry once in a while. You also have New Coast Direct, which is nice. You have My Jewelers Club, which I already say. You have the Self-Lender, which is a savings plan that you can put towards every month that you get your money back with some earned interest at the end of the year. That also helps you in your primary trade line structure. You also have other secured structures that you can use. For example, you go to a financial institution. Typically, I give my best advice for those people who are looking for credit union relationships. See, the thing with credit unions is they help you build, and they're very generous when it comes to also extending credit. So not only do they help you build your personal credit profile, but they also give you nice structured amounts when it comes to a future position of yourself. With a solid credit report, you're going to get a lot more credit than you would with the traditional financial institutions, right? So credit unions are friendly for that. So think about secured credit cards with institutions of that nature. Typical range, I'd say, to start is between $500 to $1,000. So that's a good way to start. You also want to get, in addition to all that stuff, you also want to get some installment loans. The reason I say that is because the more diverse your credit profile, the better it is for you. Diversity helps establish a sense of confidence for the creditors when they're doing through underwriting. Most of the underwriting is automated nowadays, but with diversity and the type of diversity, you can be a furniture store, you could be an electronics store, it could be whatever the case, right? But if you have an installment loan product in your credit report and you're paying every month and you pay it down, it looks really nice in terms of diversity outside of the revolving credit accounts that we just discussed. So consider getting one or two of those, and what's going to happen is you're going to basically build a nice clean credit history. The biggest factors when it comes to your credit profile are the payment history, so ongoing financial activities with some of these lenders that you're working with or the new accounts that you're establishing, as well as your credit limits. Now, if you have debt that's way below, let's say, the 15 to 30% utilization of that debt compared to the credit limit, you're doing good for yourself. Now, ideally, you want to keep it between 15%, 7%, that range. But when you're starting off with no history whatsoever, you have a clean slate and you want to establish personal credit, that's what you want to do, right? So going back, non-essential accounts, my Jewelers Club, New Coast Direct, self-lender, some secured card with a credit union preferably, some installment loans that you can find locally, furniture store, electronics store, it doesn't matter what it is. That's a good starting point. Then you want to establish some primary accounts that are easy to get, like Capital One, Citibank, all these type of institutions that will give you credit. It's a starting point. You're going to get probably $1,000, $2,000, but the score is building up nicely. And with that, every 6 months, you're going to maintain positive payment history and you're going to request a limit increase. The idea here is not to get your hard inquiry during that process. What you want to ask them is, for me, I need to get a limit increase. I'm keeping my balances low. If you have anything in terms of a promotional offer right now, I'd love to take advantage of that. If they're not willing to give it to you, try another 30 days. Just let them know, I appreciate your time. I want to do business with you, but at this time, I'm not looking to pull my credit. I'm going to try again in the future. Thank you for your time. Keep it simple, but that actually does work quite a bit. So that's how you start, with absolutely no credit whatsoever. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, Ellie, what about adding AUs? Doesn't that really help? And objectively, it does. But there are dangers to authorized users that we're going to talk about next. All right, cool. So now we're at the final approach. We're talking about AUs. Now, let's assume you get an AU and you're borrowing, or you're basically paying for a service to get an AU, and you get it. And what's happening now is, with the new FICO 10 and the new FICO 10T model, they're going to consider the history on that AU for the last 23 months, 24 months technically. But the reason I say 23 is because what you're seeing today is basically a nice clean credit profile with a low utilization, and you feel that that's going to be a history to borrow and you're going to get a good boost in your credit profile. And that's true. But also the new FICO 10T does consider the history, which is the previous couple of months, which would be the 23 months. That's a 2-year period. Assume that they carried a large balance on that credit for a good amount of time during that 23 months. What's going to happen is that's going to actually weigh negatively on the profile that you have. So not only are you paying for a service that you're not sure of its complete history, but you're not sure of the future circumstances of what's going to happen to that, right? So let's assume you get that AU and you're like, hey, this is awesome. I really want to use this AU for my credit profile, and I can get a huge boost to help my personal credit profile and move to the direction where I need it to get funding and all these other extra cool, awesome stuff. Here's the problem. What if that person that you're getting the AU from, first of all, you're paying an online service provider, so you're not really sure of who you're communicating with, but let's assume that individual maxes out their credit card in the next couple of weeks, or even the time that you're going for underwriting or using that credit profile, and you're basically weighing all that extra balance that they're carrying all of a sudden, and it's going to hit you hard in your credit profile, because now that AU, not only did you pay for that, but it's now also affecting you in a negative way, because it's not really weighing in on a positive level anymore. So you see that there are dangers there. There's a certain amount of things that you have to be careful with when it comes to that, because that's a position that you absolutely don't want to be in. Okay, so with that said, I hope that you guys got some clear direction as to what you need to do in order to build a pretty solid credit profile. Follow the steps that I've given you, follow it in a basic, compliant, legal, and ethical way so you don't get hurt down the road when you're building credit. You're not getting affected negatively when you're building credit. And most importantly, you're getting all the right tools and your resources and being able to build credit in a legitimate way that's unquestionable, and the authorities don't come after you for forbidden and illegal tactics down the road. And if, let's say, the authorities don't, which is one, it's very rare circumstance, but at least you're not being questioned by creditors. You're not getting blocked during underwriting. You're not getting circumvented to figure out whether you did it in a compliant manner or not. Fact of the matter is that you're going to do it legally and ethically. That's the most important thing that you absolutely need to follow. So I hope this video helped. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. To spread the word, share this video with those that you feel would benefit. It would help me and help the channel grow as well. If you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing to this channel. Turn that bell icon on so every time there's a new video such as this, you will be first to be notified. Leave a comment below on this video. Let's have a discussion. Did you enjoy the topic today? What would you like to see more of? And do you agree on the context of what I shared in terms of how to build a credit profile from scratch to build it to where your ideal credit score should be? And with that said, this is your guide and mentor. Looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye for now.